Like Hoth?
Cold, just like Hoth.
Hey.
Cold, just like Hoth.
Hey.
Cold, just like Hoth.
Yeet.
Cold, just like Hoth.
You need to stay off Tatooine if you can't take the heat. You need to stay off Tatooine if you can't take the heat. You need to... Hello, boyos. It's Rich Boy J here, back in with another video, and this is going to be episode number 23 of Your Questions Answered. Your Questions Answered is a Q&A series that I do here on this channel, so if you want to see your question in the video, just make sure to put in the comment section. Make sure that it is Lego, Star Wars, or Lego Star Wars related, and check to see back next week if it made the cut. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that intro that I threw in there. I am still trying to advocate for you guys to send me custom intros for these videos. Until then, I'll try to fill them in with my own little intros that are that I think that you guys will find interesting. But as I know, a lot of new people are here probably watching these videos, so what I would like to do is have you guys submit custom intros, and it can literally be anything that is pertinent to the channel. You can use it as a way to advertise something you're doing on your channel or whatever. Just make sure that it is obviously in the spirit with of Lego and of this channel. So if you guys are wanting to do that, I definitely urge you to do so. The easiest way for you to get it to me would be to make it as an unlisted YouTube video, then send me the link. I will put it in the video next time around if I think that it can make the cut. So I definitely urge all of you to go ahead and do that. So without further ado, let's jump right into the questions. First question comes from BBBricks649. He says, what do you think the best creator modular is? If we're strictly talking about the modular as a whole, then I have to go with the Green Grocer. I think the exterior of this model just really blows every other modular out of the water. I just love the way it looks, and it's one of the original ones, which is honestly kind of surprising that it is really held up and that it is held up to the test of time, but I really do think that if you compare it to any modular, it can definitely hold its own. If we're taking into account the interior as well, I know that the Green Grocer is really lacking in that regard when it comes to the upper levels, so it's really hard for me not to go with the Assembly Square. Assembly Square, literally, the interior of it is just amazing. That A-fold room and that apartment is just one of the coolest things Lego's ever done in Lego sets, so I definitely got to give them props for that, and there are just so many other rooms in Assembly Square that I love. Another one that I think is really cool is also the detective's office. I think the pool hall is just beautiful, and the fact that they had finally introduced that mirror element in the barbershop I thought was really cool as well. So those are some of my favorite modular sets. Definitely let me know in the comment section, what modular sets do you guys like? I know I'm always talking about Lego Star Wars, but the modulars are one of the few things that I do actually collect from Lego outside of Lego Star Wars, so definitely let me know what are some of your favorites. Next question is by Mac Bricks. He says, love the hat, and I really like your idea for different planets having armies. My question is, if you had to choose one or the other, would you rather give up Lego or Star Wars? I think I've kind of gotten at my answer to this question in one of the earlier Your Questions Answered, but like I said, there are probably many new people watching these videos, so I'll go ahead and throw this in because this is always a fun question to answer. Now, if I had to choose between Lego and Star Wars, the two things that I love and they go together better than literally anything else, I'm honestly going to have to go with Star Wars. And this is probably surprising to a lot of you guys because I think most of you who are here because of your love of Lego. I can't imagine there are too many people here on this channel that watch it purely for the Star Wars stuff. They have to have some affinity for Lego. So with that being said, Lego is obviously a very huge part of my life. Lego has definitely helped me get more into Star Wars, and I would honestly say if it weren't for Lego initially, I probably wouldn't be a really big Star Wars fan. But now that I'm really into Star Wars, if I couldn't have Lego without Star Wars. Lego without Star Wars for me just would not be the same, and I can't imagine me being as invested in it without Star Wars. Honestly, my honest prediction is that, if Lego Star Wars weren't a thing, if it was just Lego and Star Wars kind of their own separate entities, and there was no way for me to be able to combine the two on my own, I would probably be heavy into collecting the Star Wars Black Series figures and maybe making custom dioramas with that. And I think that would be fun on its own. I'd have to obviously be very skilled with doing stuff like that since there's no system like Lego that allows me to put things together and make Star Wars scenes. But I would definitely go that way in terms of Star Wars. I really do just need the overlay of Star Wars for me to really dive deep into my creative juices. Next question comes from Coffee with Steve. He says, did you like the prequels as a kid? I like this question because I'm honestly surprised that no one has ever asked me it, so I thought it was a pretty appropriate question for me to throw in here. But yes, I love the prequels as a kid. The prequels were everything to me as a kid. For those of you who don't know it, my initial exposure to Star Wars was from the original Lego Star Wars video game. In fact, I got the bad boy right here. This is the Holy Bible to me. If you guys don't know what this is, you are missing out. But yeah, this was my initial exposure to Star Wars specifically. So obviously, like, the first stories I learned about Star Wars were from the prequels. All the cool ships and stuff were from the prequels that I was super into. So I definitely like got a better affinity for the original trilogy when Lego Star Wars 2 came out. But as a kid, I was still primarily interested in the prequels. I was primarily interested in the movies, which was really interesting because when the Clone Wars came around, that was something that I kind of like pushed back against. I thought that the Lego sets, just the minifigures, I just couldn't get over. They looked weird. It wasn't the same thing as what we saw in the film. So those are a few things that honestly kind of pushed me into my dark ages when it came to Lego Star Wars, which I feel is kind of interesting because most people I meet, like, the Clone Wars is something that they hold near and dear to their heart, especially in the Lego community. So having that be something that actually pushed me away from the hobby, I feel is kind of interesting. Next question is going to come from DMK Mox. He says, what was your favorite Lego Star Wars set, but at the same time that set that you liked that the Lego community you didn't really like? That was a bit of a mouthful, but I'm guessing his question means, like, what Lego set do you like that a lot of people don't really care for? And honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind, because it came out so recently, is the Cloud City set, the most recent one. I thought that, like, Lego knocked it out of the park with that set, and I really did think it would be one of those iconic Lego Star Wars sets, similar to how the Falcon was last year. I thought that Cloud City was, like, the only thing that they could really put up right next after the Falcon and kind of compete with it, because that was the closest thing we had to a really valuable set, maybe outside of like a UCS Imperial Star Destroyer. But like, it was just so unique of a set when it first came out, and not a lot of people have it. It's honestly pretty rare to come across them in the wild. But the fact that, like, Lego actually went back and, you know, made a bigger and what I consider to be better version of it with all those minifigures that we really would have wanted from it, I thought was a great thing, and I was super excited about the set. And I still really do like the set, but from what I've been able to tell, people aren't really high on it. Working at the Lego store, I don't see people buying it a ton, and I really could not have foreseen this happening. I think that the price is probably the biggest deterring factor of it. And I don't know, people are like really going hard on this. Oh, I don't like play sets for my big Lego sets. I like them to be display pieces, which I don't really agree with, but that's kind of just the way things are right now. If we want to go back further into the archives of Lego sets, I am a huge fan of the original AAT set, the tan one specifically. I know Lego made a newer version of it, the Clone Wars Blue Separatist version of it, and I think a lot of people like prefer that build over the original build. I think the consensus is that the most recent one is absolutely terrible, but honestly, I prefer the build of the original one over the build of the Clone Wars one. I think the Clone Wars one is just a little too big for what it is. The AAT is a relatively small tank, and I think that original version of it is a much better representation of the AAT, and it certainly helps that it's tan. I definitely prefer the tan version of that vehicle over the blue version of it, which honestly is probably a controversy in itself. So you guys let me know, are you team tan or are you team blue when it comes to these Trade Federation ships like the AAT or the brown MTT? Let me know what you think about that. Next question is by Commander Cody's Left Shoulder. He says, glad these videos are back. Would you prefer for Disney to recanonize KOTOR or create a new series or movie set in that era? That's a great question. I think ultimately I would want for them to create a new series from it. Like, the game was obviously amazing, and honestly the storytelling in it is pretty flawless. I love everything about that game, but I think it would mean a lot more to us as fans and even like newer fans for us to get a more refined, polished version of it, preferably in some sort of TV series, something that, you know, dives really deep into the lore of Star Wars, but yet has you know, a better visual than like PlayStation 2, Xbox graphics. So my ideal set of scenarios is for them to, you know, take as much from the original KOTOR story as possible, but still kind of streamline everything, make it look good, give it the Disney budget, and I think that they could do some really magical things in that time frame. Next question is by Ryder Thompson. He says, here's my question. Do you think Lego will make a proper First Order AT-ST set? If so, what minifigs do you think it will come with? This is a pretty good question. Honestly, only if it appears in episode 9 and it actually does something. Now, it does appear in episode 8, and obviously BB-8 hops in it, pulls off with it, the top gets torn off of it. So I can kind of understand why they decided to go the way they did with the set. I think the price of it is still absolutely ridiculous. The fact that it's the same price as the full ATSC that we got from Rogue One, I thought was just mind-blowing that they would do that, but that's a story for another video. But if they ever were to release like a full version of it, the only way I could see them doing that is if it appears in episode 9 and they actually like use it in a battle or something. But other than that, it's hard for me to envision them finding a need to do that set, just because it's really in the background of episode 8. You don't see it do too much. You don't see it on crate. So I don't really see a reason for them to do that set unless it does appear in episode 9. Next question is by Tan Bricks. He says, cold like Hoth or the 501st wrap? This is a great question. I honestly would love to get your guys' opinion on this, but honestly, cold like Hoth is still near and dear to my heart. The magical thing about cold like Hoth is that like its initial creation happened like while I was live on a live stream. So I thought that was kind of cool that it started there, and then I kind of turned it into this like real thing that like I've heard so many other people singing. It's so ridiculous. I don't know, maybe when I go to conventions this year and I hear people like actually singing the 501st rap, it'll become more big to me. But to me, like cold like Hoth is still like the more iconic song that I've created. But let me know what you guys think. Next question comes from Max Nelson. He says, do you ever watch reviews of sets before you get them? And if so, is there a specific channel you go to? One thing I've learned about LEGO reviews is, for me, it's not really so important who makes it, but like more so like who's the first person who has it out, like how soon can I actually consume the review. But as for whether or not it ever persuades me, honestly, I'd never watch reviews to like sway me from getting a set either way. Usually I can look at a set and tell myself if I want to get it or not. And typically when it comes to Star Wars sets, it's really just a matter of like, one, does it look good? If it looks good enough, I'll buy it regardless, right? But if it doesn't look good, then do I need this in my collection for a reason, right? And that really mostly goes back to the minifigures. Does it have specific minifigures that I'm going to need for something? If I don't need them for anything, are they exclusive figures? In that case, I really will just have to buy the set because I'm trying to collect all the LEGO Star Wars figures. So that's kind of like the way I determine whether or not I'm going to buy a set. If it's a set and it looks okay and none of the figures are exclusive, I already have all the figures, and it's easy for me to pass on it because it doesn't really have any utility for my collection. And that's going to finish up the video this week, guys. I do hope that you enjoyed my answers to the questions. If you want to see your questions in this video, like I said, put them in the comment section and then check back next week to see if you made the cut. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, and then support the channel by smashing the subscribe button. And I will be back again very soon.